If you've ever said the words, "You know what you're supposed to do," to a child who absolutely does know and still isn't doing it, this one's for you. Because a few months after starting ADHD meds, on a Tuesday, I stood in my kitchen and ran an experiment I didn't mean to run. The medication was working. The radios were turned down. If you've seen the last video, you know exactly what I mean by that. And the homework still was not happening. One worksheet, one page, 40 minutes, and not one word on it. So I did the thing we all do. I asked him to tell me the plan. What are you supposed to be doing now? And he told me perfectly. Read the instructions, do the first question, ask for help if I'm stuck. Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3, in order, in full sentences, without even looking up from the table. He could have taught that lesson. And then he looked at the worksheet, and he did none of it. Now he is 16, by the way, so the rest of the story is not a little kid story. The worksheet these days is usually a screen, an assignment sitting open in Google Classroom. First instruction, read the questions. The gap grew up with him. It just changed clothes. Here's what I would have said that night before I understood this. He knows better. He just doesn't want to. If he can say it, he can do it. He is choosing not to. And I've had his teachers say just that to me. But that sentence, if he can say it, he can do it, turns out to be the single biggest misunderstanding of all in ADHD. These are two different jobs, done by two different parts of the brain. And ADHD only disrupts one of them. I'm a GP. Explaining things to people is my actual job. I explain for a living. Neither the doctor nor the mom in me saw the truth, the facts, the actual process. I was pouring knowledge into the one tank that was already full. So here's what we'll walk through. Why knowing and doing are two separate systems, and why your child can ace one and fail the other. Why explaining harder makes nothing better, and what all those lectures were actually training. Where help really works, a place with a name, and it isn't before, it isn't after. And what to build at your own kitchen table this week. Let's start with the two systems. That night in my kitchen, my son passed a test and failed a task at the same time. Both things were true at once. And the only way that makes sense to me is to stop treating knowing and doing as one thing. Here's the picture that finally made it click for me. The back half of the brain is a library. It's where everything your child has learned gets stored. The rules, the steps, the consequences, every lecture you have ever given. Your child's library is fine. Honestly, their library is probably excellent. You built it yourself, one explanation at a time. The front of the brain is different. It is not a library. It is a foreman. It takes what the library has and turns it into action, in the moment, on time, in the right order. Hold the plan in mind, block distraction, start. Actually start. Keep going, even when it gets boring. That is literally the foreman's job. ADHD is not a problem in the library. ADHD is the foreman being years behind the job while the phone is ringing. Which explains the thing that drives us all to the edge. Ask your child to recite the rules. The library answers, flawless. Ask your child to follow the rules. At 6:45, tired, with a sibling in the next room having fun, that's the foreman's job. And the foreman is underwater. In studies, kids with ADHD can articulate the rules more than 9 times out of 10. They know. Knowing was never the problem. So when your child says the plan perfectly and then does not do it, that is not hypocrisy. It is not manipulation. It's not a working defiance. It's actually a library that's working and a struggling foreman in the same brilliant little head. The gap between what they know and what they can do, the gap isn't evidence against your child. That gap is literally the condition. It's the whole thing. Now, the library was never the problem. What exactly are all my beautiful explanations doing? I did not like the answer. All those months, every time I explained it again, I was training the library, the full one. Let me say this as plainly as the evidence says. Repeated reminders, repeated explanations, lectures after the fact, these sit at the bottom of the list of things that actually help ADHD. Near the top is support delivered in the moment, at the time and place that the action has to happen. This difference is not small. After the fact consequences barely move the needle on the ADHD brain. Real-time structure moves it enormously. And the cruelest part, the more you explain, the better your child gets at one specific skill, explaining, which makes them sound more capable, which makes the not doing look more like a choice, which earns them another lecture. Round and round. I want to be honest with you about how long it took me to see this. Explaining is my profession. I sat in a clinic and translated complicated things in plain language. And when it all goes well, people walk out and they make different choices. It's a tool I trust most in the world. And at my own kitchen table with my own son, it was the wrong tool. The fourth explanation worked exactly as well as the first explanation, which is to say the library got richer and the worksheet stayed empty. Nobody had ever told me, not in medical school, not in residency, that for this one condition, in that one moment, saying it again and again is not the treatment. So if you've explained it 100 times, if you've made the sticker chart and given the speech and had the big Sunday night conversation, and none of it helped past Tuesday, you did not fail, and neither did your child. You were both doing the wrong job very, very well. Here's the proof. Sitting in my own kitchen on the table is my son's report card. It has been there for a month. He has not opened it. I have. But he hasn't. And it's not out of fear. He just hasn't. A mark from June cannot reach a brain that lives entirely at 6:45 tonight. That's what delayed consequences don't work means in real life. It's not a theory. It's a month of dust on an envelope. By the way, if you're thinking, we sorted the medication, wasn't that supposed to fix this? Go back one video when you're done here. Medication turns the radios down. It doesn't teach the doing. Pills don't teach skills. That was the whole point. This video is the skills half. So, explaining is out. Then what is in? Here's the strange part. The answer isn't a different kind of help. It is the same help you have always offered, moved to a different place and a different minute. Psychologists have a name for that place. Barkley, the researcher whose line, "Pills don't teach skills," you've already heard me borrow, calls it the point of performance. Plain version, The exact time and the exact place where the behavior has to happen. Don't take it from me. Here's the researcher himself.
The point of performance is where you should be using what you know, and you're not. And the only way to treat a performance disorder is to change that point.
The exact time and the exact place, that's the whole idea. Now let's put it in your kitchen. The point of performance for homework is not in the car ride home when you talk about homework. It's 6:45 at the desk, the moment the pencil is supposed to move. The point of performance for the morning routine is not the night before conversation. It's 7:40 at the door, shoes not on. Help delivered at that point lands on the foreman, right when the foreman is failing. Help delivered before is a deposit in a library. Help delivered after is a consequence, the debrief, the lecture. This arrives when the moment is already gone. Same help, different minute, completely different result. So what does help at the point of performance look like? It looks like taking the things the foreman can't hold in mind and putting them in the world instead. The plan out of your mouth and onto a card that sits on the desk. 3 steps, not 10. Time out of the invisible and onto a real clock face at the workspace. ADHD brains can't feel time passing, so show it. In this house, that has looked like sand timers when he was small, egg timers, there's still one in nearly every room, and for a few loud years, a smart speaker making announcements like a tiny railway station. The tool changes. The principle does not. Time lives where he can see it. The task cut down into the first small step. Not do your homework, but write your name and read question 1. The foreman can't start a 2-minute job. We learned this one by accident, the COVID year. School became a screen. Every assignment began with the same instruction. Read the questions, which for his brain might as well have said to climb the wall. School save that year was not a system. His dad moved a desk. They shared the office. 2 people, 2 screens, working side by side. A working buddy. There's a name for this in the ADHD community. Body doubling. And half the adults who have this brain will tell you they borrow other people's foremen every single day. None of this is new information for your child. That's the point. It was never an information problem. I know what the voice in your head says about all this. Isn't this coddling? Shouldn't he do it himself by now? Here's the reframe I'd offer, doctor to parent. We don't call reading glasses coddling. We don't ask a child if they want their way to better eyesight. External scaffolds at the point of performance are the glasses for the foreman. This is not instead of treatment. For ADHD, this is treatment. It's the half that medication cannot do. But I can hear the practical question from here, because this is one I asked. I can't stand at every point of performance in this house. There are 4 of them before 8 a.m. True. So we don't rebuild the whole day. We rebuild one moment. Here's the version of this that fits a real Canadian household on a school night, the one I actually use. Pick your child's single hardest moment of the day. Not the 5 hardest. 1. For us, it was homework. For your house, it might be getting out the door, or bedtime, or switching off the screen. Then bold that one moment, a launch pad. Same time every day. The foreman does better on rails than on decisions. Same place, and the place matters more than you think. The kitchen table you sit beside beats the tidy desk upstairs alone. The plan on a card with 3 steps sitting where the work happens, the clock where they can see it, and a finish line. 10 minutes of work, then a real break. Small chunks. The foreman tires fast. That's neurology, not laziness. The first step shrunk until it's almost silly. You nearby, just for now, and before you ask, no, you don't age out of this. The launch pad just grows up with them. At 8, it was a sand timer and a card with 3 steps. At 16, in our house, it's a shared calendar, visible lists, and frequent short check-ins. I still ask about homework, food, and exercise every single day. I still get, I'll check at home, and we both know what happens to the plan at home. So I have to check in again. Some days I am the frontal lobe. The reminders, the call that redirects him off the game and back to the work, and I've stopped being embarrassed about that, because that is not babying him. That's the scaffold holding while the building goes up. And when any piece of it works, say so right then. Not at the end, not at the report card. Then, right now, at that moment. You started. That's the hard part. Look at you. The foreman runs on immediate feedback, the way the library runs on explanations. One honesty note, because tidy advice annoys me. Work before play sometimes worked in our house, and sometimes it brought us shoddy work at a remarkable speed. Rewards are a tool and not the law. When the work turns sloppy, the rewards too far from the doing. Shrink the chunk, not the child. Because holding all of that in your head is its own foreman problem. I put a 1-page point of performance home map on the website, and the link is down below. Your child's 3 hardest moments, and for each one, when, where, and which scaffold. It's free, it's printable, and the link is below. Stick it on your fridge. Parents get external scaffolds too. And the question underneath all of this, when will he do it on his own? Honestly, later than the calendar says. Independence for these kids arrives, but it arrives late, and it's built on hundreds of successful, supported starts, not out of lectures. Every evening at the launch pad is a brick in it. You're not doing it for him. You're doing it with him until his foreman grows into the job. So why does your child know better and still not do it? Because knowing was never the question. The library and the foreman are 2 different systems, and only one of them is struggling. Explaining feeds the strong one. Scaffolding. At the exact time and place the wheels come off. That feeds the one that needs it. Stop explaining. Start moving the help. 2 systems. The library's full, the foreman's malfunctioning, lectures train the wrong one. Help works at the point of performance, the exact minute, the exact place, and you only have to rebuild 1 moment this week. Only 1. That worksheet from my kitchen, the one he could recite the plan for and couldn't start. These days, there's a card next to it with the 3 steps on it, a clock he can see, 10 minutes, then a break, and most nights, not all, most, the pencil does move. He didn't get smarter. He was always smart. The library was always full. We just finally put the help where the problem was. Your child doesn't need to know better. They need the knowing moved closer enough to touch. Next time, the number that reframed every expectation I had, 30%. Why your 12-year-old's ADHD brain is running a 9-year-old's executive system, what that changes about fairness, and what it changes about hope. Subscribe. That one is going to rearrange some furniture. Everything here is for informational purposes only, and it isn't a substitute for a conversation with your own child's doctor. You already knew that.